Chapter 26, Grayson. Lynn seems to take forever at the concession stand, so it's surprising when she comes back empty-handed. The guys and I accompany Lynn and Stella to as many of Colton's home games as we can. It's important to Stella, and it only seems fair since she comes to everything we do. I've been sitting next to Lynn and trying to flirt with her, but she seems mentally checked out today. It doesn't help that she's been working on her homework whenever Colton isn't on the field. Were they out of everything? Daniel asks as she sits back down. Huh? Lynn asked. You went to the concession stands, were gone for a fair amount of time, and came back with nothing, Oliver points out. I went over to ask Andrew about stuff for homecoming. By the way, Oliver, Grayson, and Daniel, can you come by the house on your way to school? We all nod. Why? Daniel asks. Because my mom is making enough garters for an army, and it'd make my life easier if I didn't have to try to hand them all out before school by myself. I figured I'd give Jet and Tristan's to Daniel, Grayson can do Carter and Sarah's, and Oliver, you can give Kaylee's hers. Plus, your own, of course. What? Why would you give me Kaylee's? Oliver shoots a look I don't understand at Daniel. Carter suggested it seemed like a good enough idea, Lynn says. Why? Is there a problem with that? Not at all. He'd be happy to help you out. We all would. Daniel rescues Oliver from having to respond. I wonder why he needed to be rescued in the first place. I make a mental note to ask him about it later. I raise my hand. I'm all for helping, but how am I supposed to get Carter and Sarah's to them? I don't know where they'll be in the morning. I'm not even sure who they are, but I don't think pointing that out will earn me any points with Lynn. Oh, Andrew sent me Carter's number and told me to give it to you. Lynn texts his contact info to me. I'm sure your mom's thrilled about making so many garters this year. Jet leans forward so he's right next to Lynn, even though he, Oliver, and Tristan are in the row behind us. Yeah, she's especially glad about getting to make a mum for Amelia. Xander got major brownie points for talking Amelia into a mom instead of a garter. I'm pretty sure he's the favorite to win right now. Lynn nudges Jet back and leans back against his knees. Maybe I should have sat behind her instead of next to her. For the rest of the game, we cheer for Colton and Callie and discuss tomorrow night's game. Even though this is still Waters JV, there ought to be enough crossover for us to get an idea of how they play. While Lynn is focused on the field, I text Oliver to ask him if he can come up with a reason to ride home with Daniel and not have Lynn with them. He nods after looking at his phone. We beat Stillwater 34-20. Hopefully, we have similar results against the varsity tomorrow night. Hey, Daniel, could I catch a ride home with you? I wanted to talk to you about something, Oliver asks as the JV team heads towards the locker room. Sure, Daniel nods and then adds, Lynn, do you mind riding home with Grayson? Lynn looks up from putting away her homework. I want to congratulate Colton on the win. I'll ride home with my mom and brothers. I want to talk to Colton too, I say. Wide receiver to wide receiver. You can decide who you want to ride with after we see him. Okay, I guess. I'll see the rest of you losers tomorrow, she says. All the guys say bye and head out. Lynn turns towards me. So what? I don't know. Are you sure you want to wait with me? You could talk to Colton tomorrow. He doesn't expect y'all to be at his games, much less stay afterwards. Lynn slings her backpack over her shoulders. But he's glad to have us here, and it means the world to your mom. Even she doesn't expect you to stay until he gets out of the locker room. Lynn starts heading towards where her parents are sitting. I want to. Okay, I guess. Stella and Theo are both at the top of the bleachers with all of Lynn's brothers. The boys are all getting their stuff together. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. Xander's taking the boys home so they can get started on getting ready for bed. Can you go with him and help manage the twins? Oh, I was going to stay and talk to Colton, Lynn says. You can congratulate him when we get back to the house. Lynn and her mom have some sort of silent communication. Of course, Mom. Lynn hugs her parents and then follows Xander. I catch up with Lynn. If you want, I could give you a ride so you don't have to be stuck with all the boys until you get to the house. I thought you wanted to talk to Colton, she raises an eyebrow. I figured I could help with wrangling the little ones and talk to him when he gets back to the house. Maybe somewhere in there have some alone time with Lynn and suss out how she feels about dating. Oh, okay, that's probably for the best anyway. I think my parents want some one-on-one time with him, Lynn says, then calls out to her twin. Hey, Xand, I'm going to ride home with Grayson. Cool, Xander nods. Can I please ride with y'all? Dylan walks closer to us. Having to sit through an entire football game with the heathens is my limit. As long as it's okay with Grayson, Lynn looks to me. Yeah, of course. So much for having a one-on-one conversation with Lynn. Maybe it's for the best. Daniel told me to be patient and give Lynn time. I just don't want to miss my opportunity and have to deal with watching Lynn in another relationship. On the way home, Lynn mostly talks to Dylan, asking him about school, band, and his guitar lessons. Lynn is the best older sibling I've ever met. She doesn't grumble about having to help out with her younger siblings. She actively takes an interest in their lives like their mom does with all of us, as well as her own kids. I barely keep up with what Oliver is doing, and we do most of the same things. Arriving at the Kingston house is a flurry of motion. By the time Sean and Parker are bathed and in bed, Lynn's parents are home with Colton. Lynn hugs Colton and tells him how proud she is of him. Colton shrugs her off. He used to love Lynn being at his games and congratulating him afterwards. Since he hit puberty, he acts like he's too cool for his big sister. Grayson wanted to talk to you. I better go make sure Leo is actually getting in the shower. Lynn leaves us and her parents follow behind her. You did great tonight. It looked like you might be gunning for my spot next year, I say, holding my fist out to Colton. Colton reluctantly gives me a fist bump. Yeah, whatever. I mean it. I'm sure you do. However, I know I'm not the member of the Kingston family you want to be speaking to. Maybe try to be less transparent, especially if you're going to be around Mark. Colton looks behind him at the stairs where Lynn has just disappeared from. I don't know what you mean. Lynn and I are just friends. Sure. Colton rolls his eyes. Man, he's sure got an attitude lately. We are. Whatever, man. Maybe you should worry less about convincing me and more about convincing your face. You go all moony when she's around and giving her goo-goo eyes. It's gross and annoying. It's bad enough to have to listen to the guys on the team talk about her in the locker room. Watching you fawn over her is too much. If you're into her or whatever, do me a favor. Don't use me as an excuse to talk to her. You're friends. You shouldn't need to pretend to be interested in my life to be able to talk to her. Hey, regardless of my friendship with Lynn, I'm interested in your life. Or have you forgotten who practiced with you all summer when you were going for quarterback? You're like a kid brother to me. Whatever. Colton heads up the stairs. Giving up on talking to Lynn, I head home. It almost feels like she's avoiding me anyway. Not to mention, after that talk with Colton, I'm feeling like I need to regroup. If Colton has noticed my feelings for Lynn, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to assume Lynn knows too. Maybe she's still dealing with her breakup with Mark and not ready for a relationship. That's okay. I can wait if I need to. I just want her to be thinking about me that way. I want her next relationship to be with me. Now I need to get her to see that. As I walk into my house, I start thinking of a plan to woo Lynn.